Yeah, dear YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited to be doing this video finally. I've been sitting on it for a while, I think just because of everything that's been going on and because of the shock that I'm actually done. I don't know, but this video is going to be recapping my capstone course and basically the end of my nursing career at Chamberlain. So let's get into it. So capstone is the last course that you take when you're at Chamberlain. It's just like everything else. It's an 8 weeks course. I know some people were asking me, is it 4 weeks, is it 6 weeks? It's 8 weeks. Of course, we roll into this right after collaborative, and the first thing you do in capstone on your first day is you take some exams, much like in collaborative. So you take your med calc exam. Of course, you got to get a 20 out of 20 on it. Wasn't bad. It was the same standard med calc that you get where you have the practice exam before and the actual exam is just like the practice with some different numbers. So that was fine. And then we had a 150 question like baseline exam thing. So basically exactly like it was in collaborative. So that's what we had on the first day. And then we were introduced to the VATI. I know you guys have heard much about the VATI. So VATI stands for Virtual ATI, which is a program that Chamberlain provides to you where you basically review all of the major exams. Just like you did in collaborative with the ATI capstone, it's very similar except the VATI system is a little bit more, it's a lot more intense in my opinion. The review is much more time consuming, of course, and it's just the process of how they do it all, to be honest. So it's not a system where you can just say, I'm gonna go farm, funds, adult health, critical care, like I'm just gonna barrel through and do all I gotta do. No, they force you to communicate with your NCLEX advisor, whoever he or she is. They force you to communicate with that person, so it kind of delays your progress. Whereas I had a little bit of free time that week before we started, and I wanted to just like barrel through some stuff. You're not really capable of it because you have to wait for your NCLEX advisor to approve you. So VATI opens up the Thursday before class starts, so you have a little bit of time to mess around in there and see what's up. And then as you go through the modules, you check everything off. It's basically the same thing as it was in collaborative. So you have your introductory modules, like 2 or 3 of them. Then you have your orientation module, you have your fundamentals, your pharmacology, your adult health / med surg, your maternal child, your pediatrics or nursing care of children, your mental health, your community / leadership. So that's really all of the major courses. Did I miss anything? So those are all your major courses, of course, so nothing has changed. It's just that it's a little bit more intense. So you get a bunch of like preparatory items. So you may get like quizzes that you have to do in ATI, which could be like a couple of 20 question quizzes, can be a couple of 40 question quizzes. Then you also may get a bunch of videos, like review videos to watch that are usually not super helpful. They're very vague usually, but whatever, you gotta do it. And then you take the pre-quiz, 1 or 2 pre-quizzes. One might be a bunch of multiple choice questions, and then the other would be like a bunch of select all that apply questions. And then you take your actual test. Yes, I know that's a mouthful. And really the name of the game of VATI is time consuming. It's very time consuming. It's not even necessarily super difficult. It's just that it requires so much more of your time to complete, like as if we got free time. You know, we're busy in this session focusing on preparing for NCLEX and applying to jobs and all kinds of stuff. Like, we busy, dog, we busy. After you take your exam for that module, you have to get a 60, I believe it's a 65% you have to get, might be 60%. 60 or 65% you have to get to benchmark for that particular module, and then you are free to move on to the next one. But again, after you complete each module, you gotta message your NCLEX mentor and say, hey, I'm done. And then they'll say, oh great, you're done, I see you're done. Here are some things for you to remediate. And it's usually like a bunch of busy work that you don't have time for anyway, but you gotta do it before you get to the next module. And then the cycle repeats over and over for 12 modules. So you can see why this is like super tedious and why it takes so long. You have 6 weeks to complete your VATI. So for those people who start capstone on a day where there's no class, so like if it's a holiday Monday and you don't have it for that first week, you still are able to technically go in and do it if you want. That's what I did, because my VATI started when 4th of July, so we didn't have class that whole first week, but I knocked out like 3 or 4 modules because I knew that I had things coming up. I knew that I was moving, so I said I'm just gonna do it. I got the time. You must complete your VATI by the 6th week, the Wednesday of the 6th week of the session. So I personally had some things come up last minute that kind of interrupted my flow, so I actually did not complete it by the Wednesday, and I did not get kicked out and I did not fail. Just want to let people know, if things come up, don't like have a panic attack. I completed it by Thursday because I was waiting on my NCLEX mentor to respond back to me to say go ahead and keep going. So I completed it on Thursday. I took my predictor exam, and on the predictor you have to get, I believe, a 65. That's your green light to take the exit exam. So I did my predictor, and that was that. Oh, just to mention also, like during the VATI, there were like 2 modules in which I did not get that 60%, 65%. And so with those, at the end of my VATI, I had to go back and retake those exams. So it was just like more remediation, more time wasted. But I ended up doing better the second time around. So word of advice, try and get it done the first time around, get that 60-65%, whatever your professor says, because it's just going to make for more time wasting towards the end when things start to feel like more like crunch time. So other things that came up during the course, there is hella busy work in this course, and I don't know why, because like I said, this is a very busy time for people who are like about to graduate. You have like a bunch of assignments like
this board vitals assessment adaptive mode. This was a really big thing the entire session, because you would have to do these board vital assessments every week, sometimes twice a week. Now the first 3 weeks, they were only like practices, so they didn't count as much, though they were still 10 points no matter what. But you could go back and like change your answers and stuff like that. But then after week 3, they became into exam mode, and so if you didn't score well, then you wouldn't get the full points. So you had to score above a 65% to get your full 10 points. Below 65%, you got only half the points. You got 5 points. So not a big deal, because it's not, super lot of points, but something still you have to do every week, and it was 100 questions. So the first couple of weeks you might have had 200 questions if you have both practice and exam mode. And imagine, this is all in addition to VATI, clinical, and everything else. Like, you just have these questions. Now, my professor told me that the reason they're doing these questions now is because people complained about having so many essays. I guess in the past they used to have a lot of essays, but now it's just practice questions, which honestly I'm grateful for, and I prefer it that way because it made me feel more prepared for the NCLEX, in which I was studying for in a way by doing the questions. It was getting me in the mode of taking NCLEX. We also had a group project again, which you guys know is my least favorite, because somebody always wants to do too much in your group, more than you want to. Like, baby, I'm just trying to get an A. But we had to do a project that our professor assigned to us, the topic, and ours was like dementia-induced pneumonia or something of the sort. And so we just had to do like a little PowerPoint and then talk about it. It was like really simple. You see, we got a 49 out of 50 here. It was no big deal. Another assignment we had were the NCLEX live focus reviews, which is exactly the same thing as we had in collaborative last session, except we just had another one. I believe in collaborative you only had to do 4 sessions. This one we had to do 5, and we could go to any 5, throughout the whole semester and the whole session, and it was due by week 7. But the new thing with this session, we also had 3 that were included in the live NCLEX review we had to go to on campus. So that was something new. So really you only had to do 2 outside of that live review. We also had to meet with our NCLEX mentor again, and it's the same person we had from last session. We just had to meet with them 4 times and just discuss our strategies for passing the NCLEX. Honestly, just another time waster, to be honest. It was very awkward in all of my meetings. I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Form A that we did in week 1, that was 150 questions. We also had to do a binder assignment to remediate, of course, and that was due by week 6. So that's something else. And that first half of the course that you could get done in time, And then we had to do another one for our predictor as well. So we took our predictor Monday of week 8, and our binder was due by Wednesday of week 8. So we literally had like a 48-hour turnaround to get all of those questions remediated, and it was a lot. I think I had like 46 critical points. It took me every bit of those 48 hours. Like, I was exhausted, my hand was cramping, like, just ghetto. And then the last thing was just this appendix that we had to upload, which was different depending on if you benchmarked or not on your predictor exam. So we just had to go through and like write down all of the grades we got at every class and what did we get on every CMS exam. Just, I guess, for their own records. It was nothing crazy though.
For our RUA, it was 2 evidence-based projects. So one was really just like an outline for the second one. So the first part was kind of like almost like an annotated bibliography, so you was just preparing for it, letting the professor know what your topic is and stuff like that. And we got to choose our own topic, so I chose the mental effects on fathers who lose their children after birth, so like death of a neonate and how that psychologically affects you. So that's what I wrote mine on. It had to be like 4 or 5 pages, APA, you know, all the standard stuff. And that was my last essay for nursing school, so I was very happy to submit that. I don't think professors ever grade that too hard, especially when you're at the end of your career. I got like a 99 on it, which I don't know what the point was for, but whatever. This year, we actually had like a little bit of a mess because initially we were supposed to take our exit exam in week 7. So it was gonna be August 15th, I believe, but they told us like 3 days before week 7 that we're not actually taking it in week 7, we're gonna take it in week 8 because they're now implementing, or re-implementing, I should say, reinstating a mandatory 2-day NCLEX review, which is apparently something they did way back in the day, and it was helpful for students and stuff like that before they took their NCLEX. So for that was in week 7. It was Monday and Tuesday, or whatever 2 days that you guys have lecture, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever all the sections are. So for us, it was Monday and Tuesday, and it was from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it was a very comprehensive NCLEX review. It was done by Dr. Tracy Henry. Shout out to her. She's awesome. I love all of her reviews. I think she gets flued out all over the country to different Chamberlain campuses to do reviews, and she's really good. Give that lady, you know, slow clap for her, but give her a raise because she just talks and talks and talks, and she's not annoying or anything. It's just that for talking from 9 to 5 2 days in a row, like, that's a lot, and dealing with the amount of kids we had, yeah, that was crazy. But she did a great job. I really loved the review. Even though I hated that it was a mandatory last minute thing, it was still good because I feel like it touched on a lot of things that I completely forgot even existed in the human body. So I was like, wow, this is, thank gosh you mentioned that. So with that program as well, I don't know if this is every campus, but at least at North Brunswick, they have something called Grad and Go. So as long as you attend that 2-day review, which you have to attend anyway, it's mandatory, there's no option. So if you attend the 2-day review, then when you take your NCLEX, then if you pass on your first try, they will refund you for your fees. So your $200 for Pearson VUE and your whatever your state board is, whether it's $100 to $200, they refund you. So you're about to get a $400, you know, free basically for attending this thing. So that was really cool, I guess. And then in week 8, we had our exit exam. So that was August 22nd for me, and it was great. I passed my exit exam. Barely, to be honest, but a pass is a pass. I believe I got like a 76. I don't even remember. I think it was like a 76, 78. I don't know. But it was a pass, and that was good. I'm not gonna lie, that exit exam was very hard. The content was very involved, pretty difficult, and I won't even say that the content itself was what was so crazy. It's really the fact that it's 180 questions, and you really got to be focused. So you know me, like I say this all the time, like I really check out after 100 questions. That's like really my max. I just don't be caring anymore. Like I just start thinking about what I'm making for dinner. I start thinking about who about to have the next drama on Married at First Sight. I'm start thinking about who the shade room gonna post next. Like it's just too much going on in my head, so I just really can't focus past 100 questions. Like life is too much. Life is too much. That was the worst part of it, is that it was so long. For those of you who do not benchmark though, I just want to say, like, don't feel discouraged. Don't like beat yourself up. It's most likely not you. It's most likely the exam, because the exam was very hard. Well, I guess it's a little bit you, but not in a bad way. It's just that you gotta learn how to answer questions for ATI. So one thing that I was talking to one of my classmates about who did not benchmark was like, don't be using all these other outside resources. Like, this is an exam made by ATI for ATI users. Like, don't use UWorld, don't use Quizlet. I mean, maybe if you want to, but don't use like a bunch of different platforms that are not ATI. Use ATI material, use board vitals, use adaptive quizzing, because that is where the questions are coming from. That's one of my recommendations, of course, for that. But really, otherwise, like I would say, it's just practice questions. Like, it really might be a little bit of a time waste to try and read through lectures and stuff like that, because if you really haven't retained it by now, I don't know how helpful it's going to be to go back and read like that, unless it's specific concepts that you want to like fresh up on. Okay, but for the most part, the best way to prepare is really to practice questions. That is the best way, in my opinion. For those who don't benchmark on the exit exam, the procedure is now updated. So before, it used to be that you had to do a whole nother session, so you know, another 6 to 8 weeks before you could resit for it. Now they've changed it to where you have the option of taking it in week 2, week 4, or week 6 in the following session. So, you know, the following session started the next week after we finished, which was August 29th. So technically you could have taken it first Monday in September. But prior to that, you just had to go through a couple of modules on Canvas, which you would only have access to if you were not successful. Also, after completing that Grad and Go program, we were giving access to something called Passpoint. Passpoint is just like UWorld, but it's just formatted differently. It has adaptive exams on there for practice and has rationales and everything like that. So that's what they gave us for free after the Grad and Go program, which was really nice because some people don't want to pay for UWorld. Hi, I'm some people. So yeah, that was really cool as well. I'll talk about clinical really briefly. So clinical was 4 weeks in Capstone. So either you had it the first 4 weeks or the second 4 weeks. For those who had it in the first 4 weeks, I feel like that's best personally. That's what I had. I prefer it that way because I was able to knock it out and I had to think about it at the end of in the second 4 weeks when I was focusing on other stuff like life, moving, jobs, exit exam, etc. Like too much stress at that point. But for those of you who do have it in the second half, that's not bad too. There's pros to that. You can get your VATI done with no problem because you don't have anything else to think about. Like you should be able to knock out your VATI in those first 4 weeks. If you have clinical the second 4 weeks, them first 4 weeks you need to be doing VATI every day. Live, breathe, eat, drink, sleep, poop, everything VATI. Get it done. And don't make any excuses. Tell your friends you ain't got friends until 6 weeks from now when you're done your VATI. So yeah, clinical, I had the first 4 weeks. It was in North Jersey City Medical Center is where I had it, and it was pretty cool. Like, my professor was really awesome. She let us do a whole lot, probably some things we shouldn't have done now that I think about it, but she just kept reiterating, like, you guys are going to be nurses in literally 3 weeks, you're going to be nurses in literally 4 weeks, you're going to be nurses in literally 8 weeks. Like, she kept reiterating we have to be able to do certain things. So I got to do a bunch: G-tube work, NG-tube, IVs, blood draws, med administration, regular patient care, Foley care, all that kind of stuff. So we got to do quite a bit and it was awesome. We were on a step down unit. No, not step down, it was an observation unit. So those who are in the ED but they need to be admitted but not quite, they're just in that middle like limbo state. That's what we had. But we actually ended up having like a lot of critical patients. This one lady had pitting edema like +4 bilaterally and she was not breathing. She was on a vent and yeah, so we had a lot of patients that were actually pretty critical, but the ICU was like, the beds were super full. So yeah, that was my clinical experience. And yeah, that is Capstone for you. I don't really think there's much else to say, just that it was very involved, not really a lot of time to exist in peace, and yeah, the VATI is a lot. That's really the takeaway from this, guys. Make sure once you get access to your VATI, you start knocking that baby out. Don't let it catch up to you like it did me, and you submit it late and there may or may not be an issue. Your professor might not be as nice as mine, who knows? So make sure you get that stuff done. That's my recap for Capstone, guys. I'm so happy to be done. Woo! Y'all peep my sign, right? VSNRN, period. Because we out here at pass our NCLEX, we done. And that's gonna be you next. I hope that you believe in yourself and you keep pushing forward, because all of my followers, you guys are all destined for greatness. just by association because you F with me. So, but also just because you are great, and I want you guys to really believe in yourself, believe in that. Sometimes I get messages that are like, how do you push through, and how do you do this, and how you do that. Just believe in yourself, guys. Believe in yourself. You got this. For those of you heading towards Capstone in November, this is for you, and for anybody else after that too. Shout out to all my girls at the North Brunswick campus, at the Atlanta campus. See you guys in my next video. Like, share, and subscribe. Look more. Thank you.